two.
When two guys pull together, it's teamwork. In foul or sunny weather, it's teamwork. What does it take to make any business climb? You find it takes teamwork every time.
All right, I don't think I can get any hokier than that. Welcome once again to another episode of At Your Service with Haber and Martinez. What we want to talk about today is going to revolve around, a lot of the stuff that I like to talk about, life lessons. One of them is great individuals can always be even better when they're surrounded by a great team. I like to use sports analogies a lot, mainly because I played a lot of sports, but I think sports, especially team sports, are kind of like a microcosm for life in society. We all could name, I'm sure all of us could name great players that are in the Hall of Fame but never won a championship. And of course, we all know why, because they usually were on bad teams, even though they themselves were great. Bands.
Dan Marino.
Well, Dan Marino he was a great player, but I think he didn't win a championship for other reasons. But anyway, we do know them, right? We know bands. We've got bands like the Beatles and the Eagles, who, when they were together, were fantastic. Certainly the Beatles transformed music, but then they went off on their own, thinking each one was great. And then you have Paul McCartney, who did okay. He had the band with Wings, and he had some songs that he's really still maybe best known for. And then you have John Lennon, who went off on his own, and he's best known for, well, marrying Yoko Ono. But, he wasn't bad either. He had a handful of things, but they were better together. And now you may think, well, how's that going to help me in the law? A lot of people, when they hire a lawyer, they think they're hiring just the lawyer, and they're looking for the best lawyer that they can afford. And that's great. But a really good lawyer understands that he's only as good as his entire team. And sometimes you need other teammates. You need a guy like a private investigator. Private investigators can help a really great lawyer make or break a case. Sometimes it's not enough. We need ammunition. We need evidence. We need things, for example, that a private investigator could help get evidence that will tend to prove what you're saying is the truth. Or a private investigator could help you get evidence that would tend to prove that what they're saying is a lie. And so a lot of times they can help make or break the case. And that's what we've got our good friend Calros Fuentes here with us today. Michael and I are going to take you through some scenarios that maybe you weren't aware of, that sometimes a PI can help with the case. And also, why is it, Michael, that it's important sometimes to have the PI do the work, even though you think you yourself could do it, or Michael and I could do it, but it's not a very good idea. You still need someone like a PI to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you, Carlos, for coming here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know unfortunately, this man
for a very long time.
Carlos and I have been working together for so many years.
I know.
And I like to say he is no Tom Selleck, but he is my Magnum PI.
Yes. And the fact that you guys have been working together for many years was the reason that I question his judgment. But I'm still going to have him on
Well,
the
the
show.
good news is he works with a lot of other lawyers too, so he's not just stuck with me. Because a good investigator has a wide fishing net that he can cast.
Absolutely.
Lots of cases,
And he certainly gets you out of a lot of messes. So
that's been historically true, and put me in a few too, which is why we get along so well.
Carlos, you've been doing this for how many years?
35 years. I've been doing it.
Wow.
It's all I've ever done. My brother started this, Al Fuentes, back in the day,
Big
and I
Al.
followed. Yeah,
Rest
Rest
in
in
peace,
peace.
Big Al.
and he started it off going, and from there on out, I went under his wing, and we've grown a very respectful business. We handle,
And now your kids work for you too.
and now my kids are working with it. Yes.
Wow.
So 3 generations of
Yeah.
Fuenteses in Fuentech.
Wow. Now you guys are certified. You have to be
Yeah, we're
certified.
licensed through the state of Florida. It's a lot easier to get it back probably back then than it is now. Now you got all types of courses and hours and tests and things you have to do to get
Kind
to
of,
it.
kind of like you, Ed. You really didn't have to do anything to become a lawyer back in your day.
Back
You know?
then, right?
What are you talking about? You know the wear and tear of my knees? Why do you think I
Thank
can't
God for
walk
those
right?
Russell knee pads. We're already devolving here.
I worked hard to get my license, my friend. Don't kid yourself. That's hard work. I understand you, ladies. So tell us some of the stuff. So you started with your brother,
Yeah.
and your brother started how?
So, well, he started actually as an interpreter at the beginning.
Really?
We started as an interpreter back in the early 80s, 1980, 81. And back then it was a niche. I mean, drugs were rampant. Paradise Lost in the Life magazine. And we started off with some top-notch, like you guys, prime attorneys
Thank you, sir.
of their time. And then we started doing their investigations, and it took off from then.
And was it
The money was coming in good.
And I assume back then it was a little more dangerous than today with the drug dealing.
Probably a little bit more dangerous. But, you know, these people that we represent, you know, they're in a pinch sometimes. And outside of this situation, they're really great people.
No, I'm not talking about the guys who hire you. I'm talking about the guys that you might have been hired to spy on.
Oh, well, on certain occasions, yeah. Back then, used to be a lot of that type of stuff.
Even if it's a family case. I mean, you know,
Well,
if the wife hires you and
you
the
see,
guy,
this
and
is
the
the
guy's a
only-
drug dealer,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Willie
Because
Fonco.
that's the only
Hello?
cases
Did anybody say Willie?
the
Anybody
cases
say-
we try to stay away from.
Did you?
There's domestic.
Yeah.
Domestic is the most dangerous. The only time I've ever gotten shot at was a domestic. And I deal with rapists, with drug dealers. You know,
You do a lot of homicide
I
cases.
do a lot of I specialize in death penalty cases. I do mitigation expert work as well for these death penalty cases.
Tell the folks what that is. Just, I mean, it's not a term that you hear every day.
Right. Well, because people's misconception that you do investigation, that you're tailing people, you're chasing wives and stuff like that. But there's a lot more intricacies in the investigation field. As far as death penalty cases go, to do the investigation, back